Hello, how's it going? It is me, it is Tom, and it is 6:24 in the morning because I have a busy work day today, so I needed to do this before work. I am still in my pajamas, wearing my Mr. Rogers Good Vibes shirts and sweatpants, which I'm not going to show you, but they're there. So yeah, basically the reason why we're here today, Darla is staring at me because she's like, why are you suddenly talking? Can I show you without messing something up? Probably not, but let's try. Like, what the hell is happening? Okay, so here's the thing. Many of you already know this, but you know, we have to introduce the video. So there are some new stills from the Heartstopper movie, Heartstopper Forever. And so I thought we should look at those stills and talk about them. Beware, I have finally read the rest of the comic. I will be speculating on what might be happening in these images. And while I'm speculating, I may mention some things that happen in the comics. So if you don't want to be spoiled to anything that happens in the comics, even knowing that, you know, even knowing that the comics might not, even knowing that the show, it's not a show, good Lord. Record a video at 6 o'clock in the morning, what could go wrong? So even knowing that the show, it's not a show. What's wrong with you? It's a movie. Even knowing that the movie might not necessarily follow the comics verbatim, and I thought that there was some mention of the Nick and Charlie novella being in there as well, which we can talk about that later. Even knowing that, if you don't want any spoilers for anything that happens in the comics upcoming, maybe stop. Stop. Anyway, so on to Heartstopper. We're going to look at the stills, we're going to talk about them, and speculation shall abound. So, yeah. If you don't want to be spoiled, stop now, and also maybe don't look at the comments, because probably people will be speculating there as well. So, you have been warned. Beware. Beware the groove. All right, so Alice on their Patreon has been showing these images over the last few days, but today they've been released officially in a Netflix.com post of officialness. Sometimes my front teeth make a shoot sound into a whistle, and that is happening a lot this morning for some reason, just because that's what we're doing. So looking at the very first image, ooh, okay. So we have Nick and Charlie, beautiful image of them at a party. I see heart balloons in the background, and yeah, they're dancing, they're smiling. Now, it's hard to speculate on what specifically this might be, because there are a lot of periods in the comics where, like, we montage through a bunch, you know, a lot of time has to be covered in that last section of the comics. So this could be any number of holiday celebrations. Valentine's Day, maybe. There's hearts. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. But either way, looks good. We have, I think, Tao over on the left there dancing. And yeah, just Nick and Charlie being Nick and Charlie. All right, next one. Okay, so we have Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi looking great. And I'm really glad that we have this still, because it shows that they're continuing that storyline. Like, you know, going into a movie instead of a TV show, of course there are going to be things that we cannot flesh out as much as we would like. We're not doing it, but you know what I mean. With a movie rather than a whole TV series, you know there's going to be things. Darla is staring at me. It's really hard to concentrate. Yeah, so with a movie rather than a TV series, I'm a mess. With a movie rather than a TV series, you know, you're not gonna be able to put everything in. You can't flesh out every single relationship, every single plot point. So at this point, the best we can hope for is that everything gets at least some kind of closure, some kind of attention. So I'm glad that we see Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk. And some of the spoilers that I mentioned are incoming here. But one of the things that we learn in the comics is the fact that they have gotten engaged. Yay! Yay! So perhaps they're not wearing rings in this photo, so presumably this is before that happens, if it even happens in the movie. But yay. All right, so we have Tao and Elle about to kiss. Tao looks as tall as the ceiling. which is probably just the perspective. One of the things with the comics that is interesting, the Nick and Charlie novella versus the comics. I was interested to see how this was handled because like the whole time I was going through the comics, I was like, this doesn't, like, the Nick and Charlie novella is good. It's a good piece of writing, but it doesn't fit the trajectory. Obviously, it was written before any of this had happened. Like I've done this before when I've been writing something where I've written a scene that's meant to come later in the book. But because it hasn't been properly informed by everything that comes before it organically, the scene doesn't really make sense anymore. You know, does that make sense? So I feel like the Nick and Charlie novella is similar to that, where it was written so long before all of this context came about that now it doesn't really fit. So that's why I'm really interested in, like, I loved how in the comics, like, Alice had a panel. Maybe in another universe we might have broken up over this or something. So that was kind of like an acknowledgement of the fact that Nick and Charlie novella is AU. It's an alternate universe, could have been situation that is not canon for the comics itself, which I think is the best way to do that, because it really, like, Alice could have tried to twist and turn and like make it fit, try to cram it in there, but it just doesn't fit their trajectory. It doesn't fit their character arcs. It doesn't fit what they've learned. It doesn't fit. So, all of which is to say, one of the things that happens in both the novella and the comics is that Tao and Elle break up because Elle is going to school in Berlin and Tao is staying behind, and they're afraid that if they try to stay together during that time apart, they're just going to end up, it's not going to work out. They're going to end up ruining what they have if they try to stay together. And then the Nick and Charlie novella, by the end of it, they've reconciled and they're like, you know what, we'll give it a shot. In the comics, however, Elle goes off to university with them kind of split up, and then we have sort of a promise of them getting back together in the end. Regardless, I think we're in for some heartbreak when it comes to Tao and Elle in this movie, because like that is their trajectory. In either universe, in both universes, the thought of being apart for that long, they just feel like it's not going to work. So anyway, all of which is to say, I'll be interested to see how they handle this and whether they take more of a Nick and Charlie novella route where Elle and Tao decide to try long distance before separating, or if it will be more of like they do decide to stay broken up, but then there's kind of a promise of possibly getting back together at the end, at the very, very end in the epilogue. So we shall see. All right, and now we have Nick and Charlie in the changing room looking at each other. Not too much to say about this. One thing that does happen in the comics is that Charlie decides to quit rugby to focus on being head boy, which is a good choice. And he does tell Nick, you know, I never really liked rugby, right? I only did it to be close to you. And Nick is like, huh? Not like rugby? What? Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, now this image. We have Charlie and Tori sitting in some empty stands, and they're wearing coats. And I am very interested to see if this is, because one of the things that gets explored in the comics that has not been mentioned yet in the show, because, you know, there's not time to mention everything, is that Michael is actually a super amazing figure skater to the extent that he is trying to qualify for the Winter Olympics. So in the comics, there's a scene where Charlie and Tori are watching Michael doing his routine and stuff like that. I think it's actually his qualifying, like him being, I don't know how it works, being tested or whatever. Like someone is actively judging him to see if he can proceed into the Winter Olympics running, like to be in the running for it. So anyway, I assume that's what this is, but I'm thrilled at any opportunity to have more of Charlie and Tori having some sibling bonding moments, and it's great that it's great to have more Michael in there as well, because I freaking love Michael. So, okay, next photo, we have Isaac. Yay, Isaac. I wonder what they're going to do with Isaac, because to a certain degree, Isaac's storyline, we've kind of reached the conclusion point of it where he realizes, oh, I'm Arrow Ace, done. So I'll be very interested to see what they do with him during the movie. Hopefully just him being more of an Ace King and getting to be a happy dude. Okay. All right, next we have Tara and Darcy. Darcy's hair continues to be awesome. So we've got kind of a tidier mullet than last time. Some amazing eye makeup. Both of them looking awesome. Again, this is one of the many parties that they go to, one of the many celebrations that they do. So, yeah, we'll see what it is, but I'm interested to see what they do with Tara and Darcy. It's interesting. In the comics, we don't get a ton of new developments with them because it's kind of like Alice is catching up the comics to where the show developed. Because, we have Darcy realizing their non-binary identity. We have Darcy being kicked out of their mom's house and going to live with Tara, stuff like that. It's kind of sprinkled in the background. It's not really super developed because, again, the focus is on Nick and Charlie, as it always is in the comics. I'll be interested to see what we do with Tara and Darcy because, again, their storyline also has kind of reached a point where they're in a good place. There's not really any big conflict ahead of them aside from Tara figuring out what she wants to do beyond school, if she wants to go to university or pursue her dancing dreams or something else. So, yeah, I know in the comics they do decide to go traveling, so maybe they're doing like a gap year situation and going for, well, I think Darcy already said they wanted to take a gap year. Anyway, speculation. Okay, so we have Charlie in his school uniform standing next to a bulletin board, and he's holding a poster that says something about being against bullying. I would assume this is Charlie in his head boy arc, and oh, I can't wait to see. I'm so excited to see confident head boy Charlie. Like, the level of growth and like the emotional and confidence level glow up that Charlie Spring goes through, chef's kiss. So yeah, I'm really excited to see head boy Charlie and him trying to speak out against bullying and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that will be very cool to see. I'm also wondering if they will include Charlie trying to start a queer organization at school and being told no by the headmaster. Will we get Stephen Fry being slightly homophobic in another piece of media? We'll see.
Homosexual.
Okay, next we have Nick sitting at a table with Tara, Darcy, and Tao in the background. They have some drinks. So this could be, there's a scene in a bar where Sahar's band and Charlie, because he's in the band, are playing. So it could be that one. That scene is one where we get to see messy, drunk Nick. Yeah, one of the most interesting things about the last section of the comics is that we really get to see finally the focus is kind of on Nick's mental health. So I do really hope we get to see a lot of that in the movie. I really like what Alice does with kind of the reason why Nick is the way he is and the connections to his relationship with his father and how he can overcome that and all that stuff. So I do hope we get to see that. Although I am kind of cringing in mental preparation for drunken Nick doing the things that drunken Nick does, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, and the last photo we have is, I assume, from the Leavers Ball. Oh, the sun is starting to peek through the trees, so you'll get some dappled sunlight on my features. So here we have the whole gang, all of them dressed up in black. They all look great. We have a glimpse of Imogen, which I'm glad of. I want some Imogen. Imogen's great. We have Michael and Tori, Tara and Darcy. Wait, that's Elle. Okay, I think it's Elle behind Imogen there. Yeah, Charlie is not in this picture. Nick is not in this picture, so it's not the whole gang. But I love Sahar's dress. That's really cool. Anyway, and Imogen looks great. So they all look great. It'll be nice to see them in their formal wear for the Leavers Ball. Okay, and that is the last of the photos. So, what are we thinking? What are your thoughts? What are your speculations? And what do you think? Tell me stuff. So in the comments, I would love to hear which one is your favorite photo. What are you most looking forward to? What do you think is going to happen in the movie? Anything you'd like to say? Well, not anything, but anything polite and respectful and on topic. All right, so we'll wrap up there because I have to get ready for work, but I'm glad we got I got sun right on my face. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to find some time to record this because it's been a week. It's been a crazy week. And yeah, so thanks for watching. So thank you so much for watching. Huge thanks, as always, to our patrons who are amazing, wonderful, fantastic, spectacular, stupendous. And a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Paul Z, Kim Engel, Angela Mondragon, Tanya, Kent Smither, and Vrodo. Okay, that's going to do it for me. Reporting to you live, not live, reporting to you in my pajamas with a cat staring at me. This is Tom. Have a great day. The sun is coming to get me. Okay, bye.